Hey guys, welcome to the James Bond Show. I'm your host Krazy Kajeevie and I am back with no fears, limits or substitutes for my next James Bond film review. And today we are up to The World Is Not Enough. First of all guys, I just want to say, take a moment now, if you could just hit the subscribe button. If you can hit that, once you hit that, if you do that right now guys, tap the subscribe button, you'll see a little bell notification. Tap that bell notification and you will be alerted of all videos I upload for the James Bond Show. Also, if you could drop a like, that would be great. And guys, don't forget to leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think of my review, what you think of points in the review, what you think of pieces I'm going to show you here, and your own little reviews, and how many 007 stars you would give The World Is Not Enough. For all of those that have checked out my GoldenEye review, my Tomorrow Never Dies video, thank you so much. Okay, so let's get into this. So I'm going to go through the story briefly and then I'm going to get into what I think of the film. So with the story here, they've tried to go a bit more complicated, deeper into the characters and into the plot. Unlike Tomorrow Never Dies, it was quite plot thin and just boom, 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 belted along with a lot of action, and there's nothing wrong with that because that is a pleasurable, fun film to watch. But The World Is Not Enough gets more into the characters. So we've got a man named Robert King. He is a pipeline mogul. He has a daughter named Electra, played by Sophie Marceau. She is kidnapped by the opposition of Robert King. Now, right from the get-go in the pre-title sequence, the plot gets a little bit confusing, and we've got the longest PTS, pre-title sequence, that we've had in a James Bond film of over, I believe, between 12 and 13 minutes, maybe even a bit longer. I think that will be beaten, though, by No Time to Die's pre-title sequence. So Electra is kidnapped, but we see at the start in Bilbao, Spain, in a pretty full-on, massive, extended pre-title sequence, that Bond is going to get back this money that belonged to Robert King. There's a fight, Cigar Girl is in there and she's hot, and Bond basically takes out the dodgy Swiss banker and his men, but then suddenly those men get killed by someone else, and we find out later that is Renard killing off those men because he needs to use Bond. So basically Bond takes the money back to MI6. There's a little pin label on Robert King. Robert King is meeting with M, and the pin label explodes the money, sets off a detonation, and for some weird reason, Cigar Girl happens to be there, right time, right place, and tries to kill Bond, and he chases her in a boat. But I'm going to get to the nitty-gritty in a moment of each scene of the main scenes of the film, and I'll just continue along with the story. So then we have Bond go out into the field, and we believe that Electra is going to be attacked again. How all this is brought about by the writers, Purvis and Wade, is convoluted. It's a little bit confusing, and you'll get like one line, and it's like you're supposed to know everything from that one line of dialogue. And then there's a threat, apparently, of Electra suffering Stockholm Syndrome, where potentially she has fallen in love with her captor, who did nasty things to her, and has she turned to the dark side of the Force. So Bond goes out, he goes to a whole bunch of different locations and countries, protecting her, looking after her, and he finds out. I'm sorry guys, if you've never seen the film, here's the spoiler. So I assume most people have seen the film when I'm doing a review of it. So James Bond finds out that Electra King is not all that she says, and she has actually been turned by Stockholm Syndrome, or at least she's just a bad little bitch who doesn't like her daddy because her daddy's pipeline runs in her blood, and she wants to take over, run the pipeline, and believes her dad is actually a prick of a person, so she's behind him being killed, and now she wants to rule the pipeline. And also, she's teamed up with Renard, the anarchist, and Renard, the anarchist, is going to set off in a submarine at the end of the film and basically kill millions of people with some nuclear torpedoes in the submarine. Why that all is going on isn't really fully explained. I don't know how that's going to help Electra King sell oil from her pipeline, but she's a mad bitch and she's going to have them go off and Renard go off and kill people. Okay, so guys, what do I think of the film? Now, I want to address, before I get into all the action and everything here, I want to address one point that I don't want to forget to talk about. And that is a lot of people, and I'm not going to mention other James Bond channels, but most of them always think and say that the acting in this film is great and this is Brosnan's best performance and best role. No, it's not. The acting, oh my goodness. Is there a good cast in this film? Yes. Most of them are horrible here. And in fact, the people that everyone bags, some people that people bag on aren't actually too bad. And I'm going to explain why. I could do a whole thesis on this. But Pierce Brosnan, he looks good. He looks like he's aged a fair bit from only 2 years prior in 1997's Tomorrow Never Dies. He really looks like he's aged here. He's got the hair like even shorter. It's got little grey tinges happening. And he's more mature and stuff like that. Some of the smarmy, stupid little quips from Tomorrow Never Dies has gone. And he's trying to be more serious. Now, Pierce Brosnan went to Barbara Broccoli and he said how he wanted to do a more in-depth Bond film. They all were on board. They wanted to do something more heavy with plot. So they definitely do that. And at times it definitely works. And you get a bit more insight into Bond, his feelings and emotions. But when James Bond is sitting there at a computer screen going, or whatever, and putting his hand on the screen and touching Electra's tears or face, I don't buy it. He's supposed to be a ruthless killer. Yes, he has feelings, but he's not falling in love with some chick on a video screen. He's a hardened secret agent. So whenever Brosnan does that, I just cringe. I absolutely cringe. And the final scene with him and Electra at the end, which I'm going to jump into right now, is absolutely, it's horribly directed, it's really garbage, and it suffers from, well, we want young kids to come and see this film. Bond has a gun to Electra. She's basically just turned into a nutty bitch. Sophie Marceau's acting in this scene is, in this sequence of scenes, is shocking. She overacts, she overdoes everything. And then she's like, you wouldn't kill me, you wouldn't. And then she's upstairs and she's on the radio and everything is overacted. And she's like, die. And Bond shoots her and there's no blood. It is terrible. He just shoots her, there's no blood. Then he comes out with the corny line because she says prior to him shooting her, she says, oh, you wouldn't miss, oh, you won't kill me, you'll miss me. Boom, he shoots her and he says, I never miss. And then M walks up the stairs because she's escaped like MacGyver with some whatever. And actually Bond let her out quickly, but she pretty much fielded her own escape earlier when she took out something of an alarm clock or whatever it was and sent off a signal to let Bond and MI6 know where she is. Oh dear. Anyway, so she walks up the stairs, Bond shoots Electra, he walks over to her, leans down, and there's no blood. There's no blood on the floor, there's no blood on him, there's no blood on her. It is just, I'm sorry, but you cannot film a gun shooting scene from someone 3 meters away and not have blood. And then he leans down when a submarine is escaping, potentially to kill millions of people. He leans down over her and kisses her. What? So this is where the film forces you to, oh, it's forcing emotion and wants you to like, oh, Bond liked her and she's dead. No, she's an evil bitch and she didn't care at all for Bond. Timothy Dalton's Bond would have slapped that bitch, then shot her, then thrown her out the window. In fact, he would have used her head to smack into the submarine to open up a manhole that he could get inside and kick Renard's ass. So this, yeah, the romance here is really, really forced and the acting is bad. Now, the worst acted scene in probably the entire, one of them in the entire James Bond franchise, and definitely in this film, is where Bond, the camera work's terrible too. Oh, Michael Apted, why you directed this ass in the way you did. He's kind of walking around, the camera's coming around as Bond's going around her. And he's saying to her, you know, basically accusing her of being a traitor and saying, Renard, you went to hurt me? my shoulder. And it's like, oh, your what? Your what? Your shoulder? No, buddy, it's not your shoulder. It's your shoulder. It's really badly acted. And this is where Michael Apted should have looked in the monitor, on the playback, even in dailies a day or two later, and said, yeah, no. Okay, Brozza Wazza, we're going to pull this in a bit. Let's stop moving the camera around so much. Let's just focus on the actors. And it's terribly, terribly acted. It's overacted. Also, now, one point I want to talk about the acting. One character who seems to be very underrated in this film is Renard himself, played by Robert Carlyle, who was incredible in Trainspotting as Begbie. And every time Robert Carlyle's in the film, I think he's great. I actually think he adds weight to it. The scene where Bond confronts him, they're in the desert, they're down in under the section where Renard's men are stealing warheads and stuff like that, and they're going to blow the crap out of the place. And the scene between Bond and Renard is really good. It's actually good, and I think a good actor can often bring out the best in you, and it was directed better, the camera angles were better, and Brosnan was giving a more honest performance. So he's got the gun to Renard, but then there's something that makes no sense. Renard is a character that cannot feel pain. Well, when Bond smacks him on the head, he would not drop to the ground if his nerve sensors didn't feel pain and for his legs to buckle. So therefore, he clearly felt pain. Then he's going like this. So he's feeling pain. He knows he's bleeding. How would he know he's bleeding if he couldn't feel pain? So again, it's parts of this that are lazy filmmaking and makes the film bad. Now, I know Bond is supposed to be fun and fantasy, but there's just little bits that I can't help gripe at every time I watch it. So, now, I'm going to get to the controversial choice of Christmas Jones, now played by Denise Richards. Now, this is probably not going to be popular, what I'm going to say, but I think a lot of lazy reviewers just pick on Denise Richards and say she can't act. I'll tell you something here. She actually can act. Denise Richards can act. Is she great in this film? No, she's not. She's not great in the film. But the dialogue is terrible. And the whole, the funny thing is about Barbara Broccoli, especially with GoldenEye, pushing the whole feminism thing with a female M. Then we've got Dr. Christmas Jones, and she's got that name just for a sexual joke. At the end of the film, she's wearing skimpy shorts, skimpy top. Yeah, sure, it's hot, but hey, I don't mind. I'm happy with that. But the character is not coming across like a rocket scientist, but that's what costume have done. That's what the screenwriters have done. So they've given her that, and she comes in. Now, let's be honest. She was cast because, A, she's considered to be hot, and she was a teenage dream, because she's getting her boobies out in the film Wild Things. So she was this is what Barbara Broccoli's always done since her reign from GoldenEye. She's always casting either the actress that's in at the moment, whether it's a Halle Berry or it's a Denise Richards, and they go and get the latest artist that is doing popular music, and they've done that with Billie Eilish for Tomorrow Never Dies. So, yeah. Anyway, her acting isn't terrible. She's actually, at least she's got a bit of spunk about her, where Sophie Marceau just drags on, my family, my blood, I want to be portrayed again. Oh, boo-hoo! Seriously, get her off the screen. Now, I love Sophie Marceau if you didn't know, guys, she's in Braveheart, and she's gorgeous in Braveheart. Wow, she's hot. Here, annoying fringe, pouts on, acts annoying, and she's full of herself. She's another character that's just full of herself. So, she just doesn't do anything for me. I also don't see her as the main villain of the film. I see her and Renard definitely as equal villains of this film. And plus, Renard lives longer than her anyway. She's killed off before him. And her whole plan and everything is put in motion because Renard goes along with it. Or basically, Renard turned her anyway with Stockholm Syndrome. So I do see him as a main villain. I just wish he was used more. I really wish they used him more. Now, the opening action scene with the speedboat is fantastic. It's got a really humorous moment I think we'd all love to do, where Bond's flying around the speedboat, coming around the Thames, water splashes up and absolutely covers these two parking inspectors who are putting a wheel clamp on a car, and that is awesome. And every time I saw it in the cinema, and I saw this movie also with my mum. Hi, Mum. See, I'm saying hi to my mum for me. And for you guys. So anyway, so there is some good fun moments in it as well, and there's some great stunts there. Now, some reviewers also turn around and say that, or have turned around and say that, you know, the action in this film isn't great. Now, the Parahawk sequence, it's not brilliant. The camera isn't moving incredibly. I want to do a bit more research and find out if Michael Lampton actually directed this or the second unit was there, but the second unit normally go on the storyboards and the shot composition of the director anyway, and everything's conversed and done. So a few things could be done better, but there's also some really fun moments there as well, especially the bit where the Parahawk's going off the cliff, looks like it's crashing, and Brosnan's got, as Bond, got this smile on his face, and then a parachute comes out and it sails away and coming back to attack him, and that's awesome, and it's a good fun moment. So there are some good moments there. Also, the attack on the Caviar Factory, Valentin Zukovsky is back, played by Robbie Coltrane. He's a completely different Zukovsky than he was in GoldenEye. He's not even recognisable. He looks different, he's got weird makeup on, his voice is different. So I don't like what they've done there. I like the fact they've brought Zukovsky back, but I wish he was a bit more the old Zukovsky. It's almost like Robbie Coltrane's playing a completely different character. Now, this action scene where the enemies come in, sure, maybe we didn't need the action scene, as in maybe it's an action scene of convenience, but I'm glad it's there. I love it. James Bond's got his Z8, beautiful Z8 Roadster car. I've seen one in real life too, and they are absolutely gorgeous, and not many were made. But I was at the BMW head office many years ago, and I was in there, and there was a BMW Z8 at the head office here in Victoria, and wow. And I'll tell you one thing about the car, it's long. It is freaking long. Where the Z3 is really short, the Z8 is just really, it's just got a long, it seems like a really long car compared to the Z3. There it is there. I'm going to show you some goodies a little bit later. So I love this action scene. The tree cutter that we saw earlier is hanging from the helicopter. That's big buzzsaws on it. That's cutting up the jetty, the deck thing that Bond's running on. It splits the Z8 in half, but not before the Z8 shoots rocket missiles at it and blows up one of the other helicopters. So it's a really, I love it. I love the big high wide angles. The shots of Bond flying across in the road, Bond flying across over the decking section, and explosions happening behind him. I love it. I think it's visually exciting, and even though it's filmed at night, I think it looks beautiful, and I think it was well served filmed at night, because the explosions stand out more and stand out really fantastic. And we already had a snowscape scene during that day. Anyway, who doesn't miss snow skiing scenes? And at least we've got that in this film. So I like that scene. Also, what I want to mention is, and some James Bond shows get this wrong, this was not going to be Desmond Llewellyn's last film. Desmond Llewellyn was going to appear in the next Bond film. Now, obviously, that would have been if he was still alive, because he was an old guy. Even if he hadn't have died tragically just after the film's premiere, and I think just after the release, Desmond Llewellyn tragically died in a car crash. I do have some inside knowledge on that from someone that was very good friends with him, but maybe I'll go into that on another video. And a friend that was knew Desmond very well, and that Desmond had priors and let's just say should not have been driving. Priors as in prior incidents in the car, and he should not have been driving. But sadly, I remember when that news went around the world, and I bawled. I was a James Bond fanatic, and I bawled, and I just cried, because it was like, oh no, like, no. I mean, he just seemed like, and from all accounts, he was such a beautiful, sweet man. So thank you so much, Desmond Llewellyn, for all the years of service from 1963, From Russia Love to The World Is Not Enough in 1999. You are still, to this day, my friend, missed, and you were just great as cute. Okay, so he was going to come back in the next Bond film, but he actually went to the producers. Desmond said to them, he's getting a bit too old, he can't remember all the gobbledygook lines, he wanted them to bring in an assistant, and they did that with John Cleese. So I do find it a little interesting in his last scene where he goes down into down below, and he says to Bond prior to that, you know, one thing I've taught you is never let them see you bleed. I find that line in this film really, really odd, and it doesn't fit. I don't think as fans we've ever seen Q tell James Bond not to let them see you bleed in any kind of way, not just through voice but through action. So I didn't buy that as his last scene, and I think it is a bit odd, even though because he definitely was going to be coming back with John Cleese in the next one. Why maybe they didn't show him at the end? I think maybe that was a bit of a smart move on the producer's decision, knowing that he was old and not knowing when the next Bond film was going to come out. Maybe just to finish the film with John Cleese as R. So who knows? Yeah, but that was his last film, unfortunately. What else can I tell you? The music score, I really like it. I think it's a good score. It's probably not my favourite compared to Tomorrow Never Die. I think the Tomorrow Never Die score by David Arnold was maybe a little bit better, but this is a nice score, and especially with the helicopter scene, it's got some beautiful arrangements there by David Arnold, and I so miss him, and I'd love him to come back. Now, overall, what do I think of this film? I actually, you know what, since the Daniel Craig era of Skyfall, as I call it, Skyfall, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, and now we've got a big long-winded one coming out finally in November if it ever happens. And the Bond films now are so boring and bland, and so I've got to admit, I have got an appreciation. I've got to show you this shirt. This is a World is Not Enough shirt. There you go. And it's the first time I've ever worn it, and I'm wearing it for today's video. But I've got a newfound appreciation for the Pierce Brosnan films. Is he my favourite James Bond? No. The problem with Pierce Brosnan, and I'm going to say this now, I could say it more in my Die Another Day video coming up soon, but the problem with Pierce Brosnan is he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know who he was playing. He didn't read the books. When he got the role, he said, now I'm going to be an international film star. He actually said that. Now in the documentary, Everything or Nothing, he admits that. He admits that he said, now I'm going to be an international film star. That's what Pierce Brosnan wanted. He wanted the role of James Bond so much because he wanted to be a big movie star. Sure, he probably liked the Bond films, he saw Goldfinger when he was a kid, but that's all he ever talked about. Brosnan never ever talked about the Ian Fleming novels and who that character was from those novels. And that's why when you look at it, Connery in Dr. No from Russia Love, he was brilliant. He was as close to Ian Fleming's Bond as he was ever going to get, and as he got in his other films. Also, George Lazenby read On Her Majesty's Secret Service and loved it, and he had good direction there as well from Peter Hunt, and he'd seen the other Bond films. Roger Moore made a distinct, decision to say, well, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to do this because I don't want to be too like Connery, and in the end it was probably a wise move, and he played with his comedy. Where Dalton went back to the novels and said, that's the character I want to play, the character of Bond, and the films have got too pastiche, I want to play that, and it worked for him. So they all knew what they were doing, including Daniel Craig. Now when I say knew what they were doing, knew their vision, they knew what they wanted to do. Where Pierce Brosnan came in, and yet we've got the Connery fans, and we've got the Roger Moore fans, and maybe just a few little Dalton fans, but I'm going to try and play it safe. And that's what I think he always did. Now, eventually he wanted to do more and do better things, and the producers apparently weren't listening to him. And that's where I think he should have done what Dalton did. Dalton demanded the character change, and then that's why License to Kill. Some people say, oh, what would License to Kill be like if Pierce Brosnan had done The Living Daylights and then License to Kill? No, he wouldn't have. License to Kill would not exist. License to Kill was made because of Timothy Dalton. They came up with a story and a concept to push a very aggressive, violent Ian Fleming's form of Bond that we'd never seen. So that film would not have existed if Pierce Brosnan was in the role. I say Pierce Brosnan there. He's very much World Is Not Enough attire in this one. And that doll, even though I showed him in my last video with Tomorrow Never Dies. So Daniel Craig went back, read the novels, and people say, oh, he's not Ian Fleming's James Bond. Well, I disagree. Daniel Craig may not look like Ian Fleming's James Bond because he's got the blonde hair. Scar and right cheek, dye his hair blonde, grow it a bit long. He actually then can look a lot more like him. I'm sure you may think, well, how does he look like Hoagie Carmichael? Well, Bond's also described as being quite pale as well. And don't forget, the photos you see of Hoagie Carmichael or footage is in black and white as well, so you probably don't see how pale the man actually was in real life. So with Pierce Brosnan, People say, oh no, but Brosnan was great. Listen up. I'm sorry to knock your Brosnan fetish. I like Brosnan. I don't think he's a great killer James Bond, but listen up to this. Pierce Brosnan himself has come out and said, I now cannot watch my own films. Guess what he says? Because I didn't know what I was doing. That's what Brosnan says. Now, I've been saying this for years. In the last 3 years, it came out that the man, not knowing me or who I am, agrees with everything I've been saying for years. As a director and a writer, I sat back wanting to love Brosnan as Bond, and I'm like, he doesn't know where to take this character. And I think he wasn't helped by the writers and by the producers, but that's not their fault solely either. If he being, these films are making, GoldenEye's making 350 million, World Is Not Enough, 369 million. If he turned around and said, no, this is the direction I want to go in, or I'm walking, they would have listened to him because the films were making money. But he didn't do that because he didn't know what Bond he wanted to play. Not fully. It got to Die Another Day, he hated Die Another Day, then he wanted to take Bond in a very dark, mysterious direction, and he wanted Quentin Tarantino to come on board. And then the producers got the rights of Casino Royale. Quentin Tarantino wanted to direct Casino Royale with... It was actually apparently his idea. He was pushing it and he wanted to direct it with Brosnan. But to save themselves probably £35 million paying this guy, they got rid of Brosnan and they went in a different direction, and they probably blamed Brosnan as well. So therefore Brosnan, years back, should have said, no, this is kind of the direction I want to go. And he didn't, because the man wanted to be a film star and he went along with it. Bit of Moore, bit of Connery, bit of Dalton, and he's become a bit of a mismatch. And I'm sorry, but that's just true. But do I enjoy this film? I do. I really enjoy The World Is Not Enough. There are some flat bits and some negative bits, but overall, you know what? I would take this film any day over the last 3 Daniel Craig films, because there's fun, there's action, he's got some great humour, and he's also charming, and he looks good in the film. So yes, Brosnan fans, I do enjoy him in this film, and I do enjoy the film. And I think it's unfairly picked on as well. Picked on for moments that aren't really that bad, and then praised for parts that are just like, what? Are you watching the same acting? Are you watching the same film? So guys, that's pretty much my review on that. Now what I wanted to do is show you a few things and my Kajeevie star rating for The World Is Not Enough out of 7. I gave 5 to Tomorrow Never Dies. I gave 7 stars to GoldenEye because I just love it and I think it's a great Bond film. So I'm going to give The World Is Not Enough, I'm going to give it a very fair 4.5. 4.5 out of 7. I think that's fair for it, because it was just starting to drop a little bit in quality slightly, I think, even though it's more deeper than Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know, I think they lost themselves a little bit, but I still enjoy it, and 4.5 I think is a very fair score. Now this is a screen accurate prop replica of James Bond's, Pierce Brosnan's pass in the PTS when King is meeting with M and Bond runs off. And that is his, and I think you get a slight glimpse of it in the film. And you see it's very hard too. It's quite hard, quite heavy, that one. And this is a screen accurate prop replica of Dr. Christmas Jones, Denise Richards, that she wears as well when she's over there cleaning up after Dr. Arkov. So there you go. This is a World Is Not Enough clock. There we go. And guys, World Is Not Enough shooter glasses as well. See? Pretty cool. So The World Is Not Enough was pumping out James Bond machine, making the moolah was pumping out. And I love this one. Now this is by Corgi. It's a diorama of the Valentin Sikorsky scene with the Z8 blowing up the helicopter. And it is bloody heavy, excuse my language. I'll take that off so you can get it. It's quite a heavy little piece there. And that's the lovely box for it. Now back in the day, even in the... One thing I loved about the Brosnan era, when they brought out pieces, we got great boxes again. We got colour, visual images, sure there's a bit of black there and all, but they weren't afraid to show a bit of colour and give us an actual bit of design instead of the black, boring, bland crap for the Daniel Craig period. So guys, that's been my review. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe. Please drop a like if you've enjoyed the video, and come back very soon, tomorrow, for Die Another Day. Till next time, keep on bonding and say hi to your mum for me.
Oh, Die Another Day. I think I could win an Oscar for this one. 2 Oscars. Oh, 2 will be good. Ooh, 2's better than 1. Ooh, I'm gonna win an Oscar.